Has your couples therapist told you that you probably need some DBT skills in order to continue couples therapy? Well, you're not alone. DBT is something that can really help almost anybody, but especially couples where one or both people have a really hard time staying calm during conflict. So again, I said you're not alone. Let me tell you just how not alone you are. This is a skill set that I wish I had learned in high school, in college, maybe as a kid. I really am biased because I work with couples all the time, and I think that everybody can use this skill. But I personally loved learning about this in graduate school, and I remember feeling like this is something we should all know. Why is this not taught in schools? So what exactly is DBT, or Dialectical Behavioral Therapy? Something that was developed in decades ago by someone named Dr. Marcia Linehan, and it's really about dialectics. So what does that mean? It means two seemingly opposing things can be true at the same time. So you can both want your partner to change, but also accept them for who they are and everything about them. And they may seem like you can't do the same things, but you really can't. Just like we can do the same thing for ourselves. We can both want to change the way that we talk to our partner or the way that we behave, and we can also still have a lot of acceptance for ourselves where we are right now. The main reason as a couples therapist that I, as the director of Couples Counseling ATL, but also just as a therapist, recommend DBT so often is that it is all about mindfulness, being present in the moment, non-judgmental, doing one thing at a time, learning to be aware of your feelings, your thoughts, and not necessarily react to them, to be aware of them, but to learn how to pause and to learn how to be in the moment, not thinking about something that happened in the past, not thinking about, or worrying about the future, but being in the present moment, which can really reduce a lot of suffering. It can really also help us to be better partners, because when you learn how to be mindful, you're also learning not just to be more self-aware, what are my thoughts and feelings, but also to be aware more of your partner, that they have separate feelings, separate thoughts, that I can listen to them and not react to them, just like I can listen to my own thoughts and feelings and not react. Mindfulness is a muscle, though, that has to be cultivated with a lot of practice, and there are a lot of specific skills that you can practice every day to help your own quality of life, but also to improve your relationship. So mindfulness is one big part of DBT that I like, especially for couples that have higher conflict, are quicker to escalate, go from 0 to 100, or if they've become completely conflict avoidant because things have escalated in the past and now they're afraid to even have that sort of conflict. That can also be really, really helpful set of skills to learn before continuing with couples therapy. So mindfulness is that first one, right? Mindfulness. Then some other parts of DBT in terms of skills that you can learn are emotional regulation, which is basically a fancy way of saying learning how to bring your emotions or the intensity of your emotions down or the intensity of your emotions up. If you tend to be more depressive, there's a nice little window, a kind of a range that most of us can really benefit from being in the window when we're with our partner, right? So we don't want it to be so intense that I'm seeing red and I'm not hearing a word that's coming out of your mouth. All I am wanting to do is get my point across, be right, I'm so frustrated, I just talk over somebody, right? So we've all been there. It's 100 beats per minute typically is what we say in Gottman Method Couples Therapy. From the research, we know that when your heart rate and your physiology is just so intense, no matter how much you love somebody, you're not going to be able to be present and be mindful. So emotional regulation skills, again, are about kind of getting you into that nice little window, learning how to kind of identify when I'm starting to step outside of that window of tolerance, when I'm not really going to be able to have a conversation, to learn how to take a break, to learn how to be more present, but in a way that doesn't make me say something that I'll later regret, and that also just takes care of your own mood. It can be really, really empowering learning some of these skills to learn how much power we really do have over improving our mood when we're really down, or bringing our intensity down also when we're really kind of amped and angry and maybe destructive. It can also be really helpful for a partner to see that you can actually change some of these things. So if you have a history of saying really hurtful things, or you have a history of not being able to tolerate much of a conflict, and you kind of retreat into yourself, learning how to tolerate and bring your emotions to a place where you can be really present with your partner is very, very empowering, not just for you, but for you in your relationship. So there's the mindfulness, there's the emotional regulation, and then there's distress tolerance too, is another skill in DBT, a set of skills to learn. And distress tolerance is all about learning how, to survive sort of a crisis situation. If it really has gotten past the point of no return in terms of intensity, how to just not make it worse, which is a really good skill to have, because we know from the research with the Gottman Institute that this is one of the biggest liabilities in a relationship, is if your relationship pattern is to really go from 0 to 100 in terms of emotional intensity and physiology. You're in fight, flight, flee sort of mode. There's only so many fights like that, because they're always damaging, that a couple can really take before you start to associate your partner with that level of intensity, and not in a good way. So just hearing their car pull in might evoke some of the sort of intense inner feeling of wanting to avoid, feeling some distress for fear of it escalating again. So we know that that's one of the biggest liabilities for a relationship to either break up or to divorce or to just stay together miserably, is when you have that pattern of escalation. So DBT can be really, really helpful also when you need to learn how to survive those sort of crisis moments when you're really feeling out of control and you're just wanting to disappear and get away from your partner, or you're seeing red and wanting to attack them, or you're in that sort of freeze state of, dissociation, or, just kind of being a deer in the headlights and, kind of maybe nodding, but not really being able to listen. So that's the third sort of skill set in DBT that's really valuable for many couples. Lastly, the most intuitive set of skills that is obviously really good for couples is called interpersonal skills, and it's all about eye contact, a lot of things that, again, I wish all of us had been taught as children, but we don't necessarily know. How to advocate for yourself, how to keep your self-respect in a relationship, but also, how to hear what the other person wants. Very, very great practical set of skills related to interpersonal skills. So these are transferable, not just in your relationship, but also to coworkers, your boss, your friends. I think all of DBT is helpful, but again, especially if you or your partner struggle with some intensity, and especially if you're trying to not make things worse. So stay tuned. We'll be doing some more videos on the specific parts of DBT that can really be helpful to couples who experience this sort of intensity. But if you are on the fence about couples therapy or about DBT to help your relationship, don't hesitate. Like, we offer, individual DBT skills at Couples Counseling ATL, but we also offer couples therapy as well. Many couples therapists are not equipped to handle really volatile, intense sort of history with a couple, but we have been trained in helping couples, especially where there's been that intensity or there have been fights that have gotten out of control. So both DBT as well as couples therapy can really help. And if you don't even know where to begin, give us a call or reach out to us. You can find out more information at couplescounselingatl.com or counselingatl.com. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much.